Let me begin with a truth that is uncomfortable but powerful. Life does not punish us for what we do wrong. It rewards or punishes us for what we neglect. Neglect is sneaky. It doesn't arrive with alarms or warnings. It whispers, "You can do it tomorrow." It says, "Just skip today." And tomorrow becomes next week, next year, and then suddenly you're standing in a place you never planned to be, wondering how life slipped so quietly through your fingers. Neglect costs nothing today, that's why it feels safe. Skip the book tonight, no pain. Skip the workout, no immediate loss. Skip the difficult conversation, no argument today. Skip the effort, no discomfort now. But life keeps the bill, and one day, without mercy, it presents the invoice. Poor health, broken relationships, missed opportunities, unfulfilled potential. These are not accidents. They are the final receipt of small neglects repeated daily. Jim Rohn used to say that failure is not a single event. You don't fail all at once. Failure is the result of judgment errors repeated every day. Tiny errors, tiny excuses, tiny acts of neglect. No one wakes up and decides to ruin their life. They simply decide to do nothing today, and then they repeat that decision. Now here's the other side, the side that changes everything. Consistency works the same way, but in your favor. It is just as quiet, just as patient, just as powerful. Consistency doesn't demand motivation. It demands commitment. It doesn't care how you feel. It only cares what you do again and again and again. Reading 10 pages a day doesn't feel life-changing. Saving a small amount of money doesn't feel impressive. Practicing a skill for 30 minutes doesn't feel heroic. But consistency compounds, and compounding is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. What feels insignificant today becomes unstoppable tomorrow. The reward of consistency is delayed, and that's why most people quit. We live in a world addicted to instant results, instant applause, instant success. But consistency asks you to trust the process when there is no evidence yet. It asks you to show up when no one is watching. It asks you to work when results are invisible. Here's the difference between neglect and consistency. Neglect compounds against you. Consistency compounds for you. Both are always working. The question is not if your habits are shaping your future. The question is how. Imagine two people starting at the same place. One neglects small disciplines. The other commits to small, consistent action. After a month, no visible difference. After a year, still not much. But after 5 years, one is frustrated, tired, blaming life. The other is confident, growing, leading, not because of luck, not because of talent. Because of consistency. Consistency builds self-respect. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your identity. You begin to trust yourself, and when you trust yourself, you become dangerous, in a good way. You stop waiting for permission. You stop needing motivation. You move with purpose. Neglect does the opposite. Every broken promise weakens your confidence. Every excuse trains you to doubt yourself. Over time, you don't just neglect your goals, you neglect you. So let me challenge you today. Don't underestimate the power of small things. Don't dismiss today as unimportant. Today is training you for tomorrow. What you do when it's easy decides who you become when it's hard. Success is not about intensity once in a while. It's about consistency all the time. If you want better health, practice small health disciplines daily. If you want better relationships, show up consistently with care and attention. If you want success, invest a little effort every single day. Neglect says it doesn't matter. Consistency says this matters even if I can't see the results yet. and life always listens to consistency. Choose wisely, because in the end, the cost of neglect is regret, and the reward of consistency is a life you are proud to live. Neglect is never loud or dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't crash into your life with chaos or noise. It slips in quietly, almost politely, asking for permission in small moments. It shows up as a delay, a postponement, a harmless later. And because it doesn't hurt immediately, we allow it. That is what makes neglect so dangerous. It never feels like destruction in the moment. It feels like rest, comfort, or harmless choice. But while you are feeling comfortable, time is moving and life is keeping score. Neglect begins with the smallest decisions. You decide not to read today, you decide not to listen, you decide not to practice, you decide not to prepare. Nothing bad happens right away, so your mind concludes that the decision was safe, but the problem is not today. The problem is repetition. What you neglect once can be recovered. What you neglect daily becomes your lifestyle, and lifestyles create destinations. People often ask, how did I end up here? The answer is almost never dramatic. It wasn't one huge mistake, one terrible choice, or one wrong turn. It was a series of tiny decisions to ignore what mattered, skipped opportunities, unkept promises to oneself, avoided responsibilities, and slowly, quietly, those small acts of neglect shaped a future that no one consciously chose. Neglect works best because it disguises itself as freedom. It says you deserve a break. It says you've got time. It says one day won't matter. But neglect never takes just one day. It takes today, then asks for tomorrow, and before you realize it, it owns your habits. And once it owns your habits, it controls your results. Health is a perfect example. No one becomes unhealthy overnight. It happens meal by meal, choice by choice, excuse by excuse. Skipped exercise doesn't cause pain today. Poor sleep doesn't ruin life tomorrow. But compounded neglect slowly weakens the body, and one day the body speaks loudly because it was ignored for too long. The same is true for relationships. Love doesn't disappear suddenly. It fades when attention is neglected, when conversations are postponed, when appreciation is forgotten. One day you wake up distant from someone you once felt close to, and you wonder where the connection went. It didn't leave, it was neglected. Neglect is also responsible for wasted potential. Dreams don't die from failure, they die from silence, from never being acted upon, from being placed on a shelf labeled someday. Talents don't disappear, they rust. Skills don't vanish, they weaken, and regret grows strongest in the presence of unused ability. The pain of trying and failing is temporary. The pain of neglect lasts a lifetime. What makes neglect even more dangerous is that it doesn't feel like failure. Failure feels heavy, neglect feels light. Failure demands attention, neglect avoids it, and because neglect doesn't demand action, it becomes comfortable, but comfort is expensive, it charges interest. And the longer you stay, the more it costs. Time is the greatest partner of neglect. Time doesn't argue, time doesn't warn, time simply moves forward, carrying the consequences with it. Every day of neglect adds weight to the future. And one day, When you want to change, you realize the load is heavier than expected. That's when people say, "If only I had started earlier." That sentence is the echo of neglect. The tragedy is not that neglect exists. The tragedy is that it is optional. Neglect only survives where awareness is absent. The moment you recognize it, you have power. Awareness turns neglect into a choice, and choice opens the door to change. You may not be able to fix everything at once, but you can refuse to ignore it any longer. Life does not demand perfection. It demands attention. It doesn't require giant leaps. It asks for small steps taken seriously. The opposite of neglect is not intensity, it is care. Care in daily decisions. Care in small actions. Care in honoring what matters before it becomes a problem. If you truly understand the cost of neglect, you stop waiting for motivation. You stop waiting for the perfect time. You act because you know the price of inaction. You begin to respect today because today is the only place where neglect can be stopped. Neglect steals quietly, but awareness takes back control. And the moment you choose to no longer ignore what matters, life begins to shift. Consistency doesn't arrive with excitement or fireworks. It doesn't demand applause, and it doesn't try to impress anyone. In fact, consistency is often so ordinary that most people overlook it. That's why it works. While people chase breakthroughs, consistency builds foundation. While people wait for motivation, consistency moves forward quietly, day after day, shaping outcomes long before results appear. The truth is, consistency doesn't require you to be extraordinary. It only requires you to be committed. You don't need perfect conditions, unlimited energy, or constant inspiration. You need a decision that does not change with your mood. Consistency is the art of showing up even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Because feelings change, but discipline creates direction. Most people fail not because they lack ability, but because they lack rhythm. They start strong, full of emotion and excitement, then disappear when the excitement fades. Consistency understands something important. Motivation is unreliable, but habits are loyal. Habits don't ask how you feel today. They simply ask whether you will do what you said you would do. Small actions repeated daily may look unimpressive, but they carry enormous power. Reading a few pages every day slowly turns into knowledge. Practicing a skill for a short time each day quietly turns into mastery. Saving a small amount consistently becomes security. These actions don't feel transformational in the moment, but transformation is rarely loud. It happens gradually, invisibly, until one day the difference is undeniable. Consistency also builds trust with yourself first. Every time you follow through, you strengthen your self-respect. You prove to yourself that your word matters. Over time, this internal trust becomes confidence. Not the loud, fake kind, but the calm confidence that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. And when you trust yourself, your actions become stronger, your decisions become clearer, and your excuses lose their power. The world rewards consistency more than talent. Talent may open doors, but consistency keeps them open. Many gifted people never reach their potential because they rely on talent alone. Meanwhile, average individuals with consistent habits surpass them. Why? Because consistency compounds effort, and compounded effort always wins in the long run. Consistency teaches patience. It trains you to work without immediate rewards. This is difficult in a world that wants everything now. But success is not instant, it is earned slowly. Consistency allows you to stay in the process long enough for progress to show. It keeps you moving when results are delayed, when no one is clapping, and when doubt creeps in. There will be days when consistency feels boring, days when you question whether it's worth it, days when skipping seems harmless, but consistency is not about feeling inspired, it's about honoring your future self. It's about understanding that the person you want to become is built by the actions you repeat today. Every consistent action is a vote for the future you desire. Consistency also creates momentum. At first, progress feels slow because you're pushing against resistance. But over time, the movement becomes easier. What once required effort becomes natural. Discipline turns into routine. Routine turns into identity, and identity drives behavior. You stop forcing yourself to act because acting becomes who you are. This is why consistency is powerful. It changes not just what you do, but who you become. You don't just get better results, you become a better person, stronger, more reliable, more focused, more grounded. You become someone who finishes, not someone who starts and stops. Life doesn't reward what you intend to do. It rewards what you repeatedly do. Consistency aligns your actions with your goals until they meet. And when they meet, success feels almost inevitable, not because it was easy, but because it was earned patiently, faithfully, and deliberately. Consistency may be quiet, but its impact is loud over time. And those who embrace it don't chase success. They build it one day at a time. Every life is shaped not by one big decision made in a dramatic moment, but by small decisions made quietly, consistently, and often unnoticed. People love to talk about turning points, breakthroughs, and life-changing moments, but the truth is far less glamorous. Your future is being decided in ordinary moments, when no one is watching, when no one is applauding, when the choice feels too small to matter. Those moments are not small. They are powerful because they repeat. You don't wake up one day successful, confident, disciplined, or fulfilled. You wake up as the result of thousands of tiny choices that stacked on top of each other over time. What you choose to do when you're tired, what you choose to do when it's inconvenient, what you choose to do when quitting would be easy. These choices don't scream for attention, but they quietly cast votes for the kind of person you are becoming. Most people underestimate the power of daily decisions because they expect immediate feedback. They want proof that today mattered, but life doesn't work that way. Life waits. It allows your choices to accumulate. And then, one day, it reveals the outcome. That's why people are shocked by their own results, good or bad. They didn't see it coming because they ignored the daily process that created it. Every small decision is either honored or ignored. You either honor your goals with action or you ignore them with excuses. You either honor your health with discipline or you ignore it with neglect. You either honor your potential with effort or you ignore it with comfort. There is no neutral choice. Doing nothing is still a decision, and it still carries consequences. What's dangerous is that small decisions feel harmless. Skipping effort today doesn't feel like failure. Giving less than your best doesn't feel like defeat. Lowering your standards doesn't feel like quitting. But over time, these choices redefine your identity. You don't just get different results. You become a different person. Someone who settles, someone who delays, someone who explains instead of executes. On the other hand, honoring small decisions builds strength you cannot fake. When you do the right thing repeatedly, even when it's hard, you develop inner authority. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop needing external pressure. You move because you've trained yourself to move, and that discipline carries into every area of life. Your future doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you consistently do. You may want confidence, but confidence is built by keeping promises to yourself. You may want success, but success is built by daily effort, not occasional intensity. You may want respect, but respect begins with self-respect, and self-respect is earned through consistent action. The most powerful thing about small decisions is that they are always available. You don't need a perfect moment to make a better choice. You don't need permission. You don't need motivation. Right now, in this ordinary moment, you can choose to act differently. And if you repeat that choice tomorrow and the day after, your life will begin to shift in ways that feel almost inevitable. People often wait for a big reason to change, but the truth is, big change comes from small commitments honored daily. When you align your daily actions with the person you want to become, your identity starts to change. And when identity changes, behavior follows naturally. You no longer force yourself to grow. You become someone who grows. Life rewards alignment. When your actions match your intentions, progress happens quietly but steadily. You stop drifting. You stop feeling stuck. You stop wondering why nothing changes, because now something is changing every day, even if it's invisible. In the end, your life will not be defined by what you planned, wished for, or talked about. It will be defined by what you practiced. The small decisions you honored or ignored will tell the story. And that story is being written today, one choice at a time. As we bring this message to a close, let me speak to you not as an audience, but as a human being standing at a crossroads, because every one of us is always standing at one. Life is not waiting for the perfect version of you. It is responding to the version of you that shows up every day. And right now, in this moment, you are making a decision, not with words, but with attention. Not with dreams, but with awareness. This moment matters more than you think. You have now seen both sides of the equation. You understand the silent cost of neglect and the quiet power of consistency. You know that nothing in life stays the same. You are either moving forward or drifting backward. There is no pause button. There is no neutral ground. Time keeps moving, and it carries your habits with it. The question is simple, but the answer will shape your life. What will you do with today? Stop waiting for clarity to act. Action creates clarity. Stop waiting for confidence to begin. Confidence is built by beginning. Stop waiting for motivation to save you. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline stays. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your daily actions, and those actions are always within your control. Let me be clear, you don't need to change everything at once. That's an excuse disguised as ambition. You need to change something, one small thing, and repeat it. Progress doesn't demand perfection. It demands persistence. A better life is not built in one heroic moment, but in thousands of ordinary moments taken seriously. Talk to yourself differently starting today. Replace "I'll try" with "I will." Replace "someday" with "today." Replace excuses with responsibility. Not because life is unfair, but because life is fair. It gives back exactly what you put in, multiplied by time. That's not pressure, that's power. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not disqualified. But you are responsible for what you allow, responsible for what you repeat, responsible for what you tolerate. And the moment you accept responsibility, you take back control. Responsibility is not a burden, it is freedom. Imagine where you could be 1 year from now if you refused to neglect what matters. Imagine the confidence you would feel if you kept your word to yourself every day. Imagine the peace that comes from knowing you did the work, even when it was hard, even when it was boring, even when no one noticed. That version of you is not a fantasy, it is a result, and results are created, not wished for. Let today be the day you stop underestimating small actions. Let today be the day you stop betraying your future for short-term comfort. Comfort feels good now, but it steals tomorrow. Discipline feels hard now, but it pays forever. Choose your hard wisely. You don't need approval to improve. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need applause to continue. The most important agreement you will ever make is the one you make with yourself. And every time you honor it, you become stronger. Every time you break it, you weaken your future. Choose strength. Life will test you. There will be days when quitting feels logical, days when excuses sound reasonable, days when neglect invites you back in. But remember this, the pain of discipline weighs ounces, the pain of regret weighs tons. Don't trade long. Term pride for short-term relief. Stand up tomorrow and do the simple things well. Read when you don't feel like it. Practice when you're tired. Show up when it's inconvenient. Speak with intention. Act with purpose. These are not small acts. They are votes for the life you want. One day, sooner than you think, you will look back at this season. And you will either thank yourself for choosing consistency, or you will wish you had started. Make sure gratitude wins. Make sure your future self looks back with pride and says, "That's when everything changed." Because in the end, your life will not be measured by what you knew, but by what you did. Not by what you planned, but by what you practiced. Not by what you wanted, but by what you became. So start now. Start small. Stay consistent. And never again ignore the power you hold in your daily choices.